Listen, creative work is personal, so yeah, criticism can hit hard. But when you're building a business, learning how to take feedback without falling apart is a must. In this throwback, I'm sharing the 3 filter method I use to decide whether feedback is valid or just noise. So let's get into it. This is kind of like a public service announcement to my fellow creatives, my fellow artists, makers, designers, crafters, and artisans. I wanted to talk to you about a bit of a sensitive topic, and it's how to handle criticism when you're a creative. And the reason that I wanted to talk to you about it is because as creatives, we can be very sensitive. That I feel that I'm qualified to have this conversation with you today because I come from both sides, both perspectives. I am a creative myself, as well as a employer of creatives. So in my professional career, I do have to hire artists, designers, web developers, photographers, so on and so forth. So I can look at it from both perspectives. And being a creative myself and being in the creative community, I know that we can be sensitive. And it's by our very nature. There's nothing wrong with that except when it gets in the way of commercial production. And I'm going to go into that a bit more. So as a creative, we are very sensitive to our surroundings. We tend to be very in touch with our feelings, and we're able to process them, and we actually take time to process them. We see the veining of a leaf. We hear the wind rustling. We see twinkles in the moonlight. I mean, we're able to take in all of those details and process them, and it comes out in our creative expression. Most people, or people who think on the other side of the brain, don't necessarily do all of that, okay? So we're very unique in that way. And that is what makes us special and unique and able to produce such amazing things. But at the same time, it also could be a hindrance if that sensitivity gets in the way of the communication dynamic. So let me explain. When you're in the commercial art world, meaning you're producing for an end result, be it to sell a product or to produce content for an employer or a client, you have to deal with feedback and you have to deal with criticism. Preferably constructive criticism. That is the hope, is that it's constructive criticism. But you can't guarantee 100% all the time that it will be in the manner that you want to receive it or that your ears are comfortable with hearing. Sometimes it can be very matter of fact. Sometimes it can be very direct. Sometimes it could be very catty or mean-spirited. You're going to get it from all sides. And so I realized that over the years, I have developed a system as a creative for how I receive feedback and how I receive criticism. And I'm going to share it with you in hopes that it will help you going forward, and maybe you can take these questions into consideration when you're deciding whether or not you're going to take constructive criticism or not. Because that criticism, depending on how it's received, can really affect you as a creative. It can affect your self-esteem. It can affect whether or not you choose to continue to put out your work. And we want you to continue to put out your work because your work is a benefit to the world. Sometimes you have to find your audience, but you still should put out your work. So I don't want you to have criticism and allow it to shut you down or prevent you from growing and developing. And so I kind of developed a qualification system for how I receive feedback and criticism, and I'm going to share with you. There are 3 questions that I ask myself when someone gives me feedback. The first question that I ask myself, and I'm going to put a little, it's like kind of, imagine a funnel system with 3 tiers. And if the feedback passes through all 3 tiers, all of the feedback comes in the top of the funnel. And if it passes through the 3 tiers and comes out the other end, then that feedback is valid. That feedback is taken into consideration. If it doesn't pass all 3 tiers, then it gets dismissed. Okay, we're using this funnel system to decide whether the feedback gets considered or we give zero you know what. Okay, so question number one, first tier, question number one. What is the qualification of this person giving the feedback? Are they qualified to give this feedback? So what I mean by that is, what's their experience in this area? What's their expertise? Is it related to the direct feedback that they're giving? And if it is, then it passes through the filter. It gets considered. If they're not qualified to give their opinion on what they're giving their opinion on, if they have no experience in that area, then that comment or that feedback doesn't get considered and it falls away. Question number two, what's their intention? Why are they saying this? Why are they giving this opinion? Is it to be helpful? Is it to be encouraging? Are they trying to help you move forward in your development? Or are they being vindictive? Are they just venting? Is it mean-spirited? If it's mean-spirited, it doesn't get considered. That's the end of it. If they're saying it, with love or with the intention of being helpful or encouraging, then it passes through the filter and it gets further consideration. Last question number three that I ask myself is, what's their relationship to me? Is this a person whose opinion I value? And I'll value their opinion based on, are they a mentor? Are they an advisor? Are they a family member? Are they a peer? And depending on who they are and their relationship to me, are they a random person on the internet who is just passing through and leaves a comment? Or a random person at a trade show or a fair? They're not my target audience, but they want to leave a comment or leave some feedback. It's all taken into consideration. If they are a mentor or an advisor, a trusted advisor, that means that they have some experience in what I'm trying to do. They're further along in their path than I am, and so their experience can benefit me. If they're a family member, of course, we give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that their comment is said in love. But again, if they don't have any experience in what they're giving their opinion on, then the opinion isn't really valid. If they're a peer, are they a quote-unquote frenemy, or are they more of a collaborator versus being a competitor? Those are all things that are taken into consideration when you consider someone's opinion and someone's feedback. So those three levels, if they pass through all three of those filters, then the feedback, I consider it valid. I'll take it into consideration. Now, I may not always like the feedback. I may not even always like the way it was delivered. But at least I can say, is this feedback valid or is it not? If it's not, it gets dismissed and we move on. If it is valid, then I take it into consideration and see how I can incorporate that feedback into whatever it is that I'm doing. Now, one caveat for that is that sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have a choice, especially in the commercial art world. You don't get to have the final say of whether or not you take in that feedback. If you are at a company and you're working for a client, for example, they may not be qualified. The person giving the okay, the sign-off, may not be qualified in the area that they're giving the feedback on. They might be giving a comment on some copy or some graphic design that has been done, and they don't have any experience in graphic design or marketing or things like that. But they have the final sign-off on that project. So yes, you do have to appease them. You have to incorporate their feedback, and it may not be valid. But that's where your expertise comes in. It is up to you and it is your responsibility to add your creative expertise in your area and merge that with delivering what the client wants. Because again, at the end of the day, they're paying for the end result. Now, if you're unwilling to do that, then that's kind of a signal that maybe commercial art is not the area that you want to focus on. Perhaps you want to be more on the creative side, the creative art side, where you get to put out your art and express yourself in whatever way you see fit, and you don't really have to incorporate the feedback. You kind of put it out there, and the people either take it as is or leave it. They either buy it or they don't, but you still get to express yourself the way that you want to. There are both avenues that you can pursue. And neither one is right or wrong. Neither one is better or worse. It's just up to you what you decide that you want to do. Which area do you want to be involved in? But if you do decide to become a part of the commercial art world, then feedback and criticism is a part of the process. Now, are there trolls out there who are just mean-spirited and want to say negative things and run? Yes, there are. Will it sting? Yes, it will. But at least you have kind of like now a logical three-step process of whether or not you'll allow that comment to linger. If it stings, let those feelings come up and let it sting, but you know it's time to dismiss whatever it is they said because it didn't pass through the funnel. It didn't pass through those three filters, and therefore we are not going to consider that comment or that feedback. But if it did pass through those three filters, and we have decided that the comment is valid based on those three questions, then it's time to incorporate it. It's time to see how we can work with that comment to further our development because it's for our benefit, and we now know that. So I hope this has been helpful. Before I let you go, one side note. In my experience, what I've found is that typically if you're working with qualified people, you can get your design hashed out within 3 revisions or less. That's kind of my rule of thumb. In the creative process, we know that there's going to be back and forth. There's going to be put out your work, you get the feedback, you incorporate the feedback, and sometimes they love the first design and it's, a home run and everybody's happy. Those are the great moments. Most of the time, there's going to be back and forth. And for me, I tend to think that the rule of 3. Within 3 revisions or less, you should be able to nail that design or whatever piece that you're providing for the client. If that doesn't happen, it's usually one of 3 things. Again, this rule of 3, whatever. Either the client does not know what they want, the client can't articulate what they want, or your skill level is not at the level where you can deliver what the client is asking for. And if that happens, then it's time to part ways. Because the back and forth can go on indefinitely, ad infinitum, and people's feelings continue to get hurt, people get upset, and it never turns out well. So if your skill level is at the level that can execute whatever it is they're asking for, if they're well versed in being able to articulate what it is that they want, they're clear on what they want, then it's usually a happy outcome. Nonetheless, I hope those tips have been helpful. And I hope that going forward, you will be able to remember these 3 questions in the qualification funnel to help you decide whether or not you're going to take in that criticism that you just received and not allow it to affect you or discourage you, or on the other hand, allow it to benefit you and help you grow. So thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you did. If you have any comments, let me know. I'd love to hear them. And I want to know, how do you deal with criticism? Do you take it all as constructive? Do you allow it to affect you? Have you ever been in a situation where someone's feedback kind of crushed you a little bit? And if so, how did you deal with it? How did you come out of it? Do you have a system for whether or not you will qualify criticism or feedback that's given to you? I want to know. So leave a comment below. And until next time, click that subscribe button so we can stay in touch. And check out these videos YouTube thinks you should watch next. Bye-bye.